can you tell us a little bit about the high school mathematics lessons to explore, understand, and respond to social justice? I know you mentioned a little bit about that you're an author. And when you're talking about that, can you give us a hint about when the other books might come out? Because I've
Yeah.
heard that there's going to be books for middle school and elementary.
All right.
So you want to
So
share?
let me answer. I can answer that last question first, and then I'll jump to the first question. So yeah, there are 3 more books coming forward, and they will be coming forward in Los Angeles. I should give you a date. When I say Los Angeles, that is NCTM Los Angeles. That's in the fall.
So we know it's coming in September.
um, and there will be a middle school version of the book. There will be a 3-5 version of the book, and there will be a K2 version. And each of the books will be developmentally appropriate for each of the grade bands, with tasks that's using a similar framework as the high school book as it relate to this idea of social justice. And and the idea of not only is it mathematically appropriate for the grade band, but the social justice interactions and the social justice idea are developmentally appropriate for the grade bands as well. And so it will follow structurally very similar to the high school book, with uh, with every series. There are some nuances, right? So the idea of justice and what does justice look like, and so the idea that we don't want students to engage in the mathematics around an idea for social justice, but we also want them to develop critical consciousness. So as a result of engaging in this lesson, what are you going to do about the social justice idea that you engage in the mathematics around? So this idea of engaging in critical consciousness is that after doing the mathematics, after experiencing the lesson, what is the activity? What is the justice activity one might engage in? And it doesn't have to be a grandiose activity. It moves from awareness raising into there may be some action that students may take. The action may be, you know, informing the community about the lack of access to food and food desert, or the lack of access to water and what that might mean, or looking at, here's a trend, if we continue on this trend, so it might be community awareness raising. That could be the action. But whatever the action may be, the idea around the social justice book is not only engaging in the mathematics, but also engaging in this idea of justice, and also engaging in this idea of identity. And what we mean by identity is this, how does this real idea of social justice relate to me, my community, and in the space in which I live? And what's the impact thereof of that, And so, and it might mean different things. So, it would, but ultimately, while there are a series of lessons in each of the books, I love the last section of all of the books, because the last sections engages teachers and leaders on how to create their own social justice lessons, because each idea of justice may vary from community to community. So if you can have a framework to help think about these ideas, the last sections of each of the books has this framework for how do you develop your own lessons. And so the lessons in the 22 or 3 in the high school book, I cannot remember the exact number, the 20 some odd, how about that? In the high school book are great. But one could argue that maybe all of those lessons may not be applicable to every community in which students live. But perhaps the framework can be so that's what excites me, right? What excites me is moving forward a framework to help teachers and leaders and others to think about what is the framework for developing a social justice lesson, an idea based on social justice? And what are the things that need to happen as a result of not only developing the lesson with not only our mathematics standards and content ideas and processes, but our social justice standards, which come from teaching tolerance. The social justice standards are based on the teaching tolerance social justice standard. And what are those standards and practices and processes, and how do they intersect? And helping teachers think about those things, that they're not independent of one another. They can work very well as they intersect with one another. But you have to think about those intentionally as you plan this lesson, or as you plan a series of lessons, or as you plan a unit around those ideas. So that's, to me, that's the most exciting thing about all of the books. And that, but I also can understand another aspect of this, is that, the lessons themselves are exciting for my students, because because they've not seen a framework for how to do this. And so I understand having those lessons to kind of do a few of them first and say, you know what, if I were doing this with kids in my community, I would do this differently. I would do that. That's what I want you to do, right? I want you to do, oh, this part worked, this doesn't. That is the absolute best. That's another good thing about it as well. So you may not be able to write your lesson yet, but you may be able to raise questions about that and say how I might change this significantly. So I think it lends all of those things. So for one who wants it's not necessarily a script, but something to follow to teach a lesson. And for other teachers, it may be, okay, I get this, but I'm changing this, I'm changing that, and that's perfect. And for another, like, I'm starting from scratch. I think it has the potential to do all of those things. And those are that's exciting to me as well.
I'm looking forward to seeing all of those books. Thank you so much.
So I will say again, the authorship team for the high school book. So I'm on the 3-5 book. And while I'm the first author on the high school book, I'm excited about we have new authors. The authorship teams are different from the high school book. And so I'm excited about, I'm at a point in my career where, like, I love other people winning. I love it, right? I want to see everybody else win. I just absolutely. So I'm excited about our new authors. I'm excited about this for them. And I think the field's gonna be, we got some great people, and who are working on these books, who are probably way more expertise than I am. I just happen to be a part of the authorship team that wrote the first book, right? So I'm lucky. I'm lucky in those regards, and I'm doubly lucky because I get to work with new people.